Fascinating space this is. I am so glad I'm getting the chance to see this part of Cupole. The Blockhaus and Le Cupole, both in France near Calais, are some of the largest structures built during the Second World War. Bunkers so large they can be seen from space. Millions of tons of cement and steel. Yet today we are still uncertain as to what they were for, and why they were built at such a late stage of the war. They were both in some way connected to the rocket program, probably, citing the British post-war intelligence report by Duncan Sandy. The two huge bunkers are completely different in look and design, yet the general construction was remarkably similar, as the report noted. Today we are told that they were both for the assembly and launching of V-2 rockets. Yet the 1944 British report states that the blockhouse was not an offensive structure, but Le Cupole was. The British report also stated that the blockhouse did not have any underground. Yet today, from the owners and living witnesses, we are told that there are indeed two levels beneath. And at Le Cupole, 1945 British intelligence report stated that due to the heavy bombing of the site, none of which actually damaged the dome or inside of the structure, yet it may possibly have covered up tunnel entrances around it that are yet not to be found. And there are more questions than just exactly what weapons were actually supposed to be used here. The steel doors found were large enough for a rocket of twice the size of the V-2. Also, if it's presented today, the blockhouse were for assembly and launching of V-2s. Why in the world would Le Cupole then be many, many more times larger if it was sufficient for the purpose of launching V-2s at London? With all these questions, I have received special permission to explore the tunnels behind Le Cupole to get some idea what could have been done here. By the way, did I mention that in 1943 Hitler suggested the use of N-stuff for the rockets here, warheads or propulsion? You know, N-stuff, that exceptionally dangerous volatile compound that was made at Falkenhagen by the SS. We know how dangerous that was to handle, so how would that possibly have been handled here? It started in September 1943 when Albert Speer presented Hitler with an enormous construction project where he would build 1 million tons of cement and steel dome near Calais in France, in a chalk mine 100 meters deep, and under the dome an octagon structure centered around launching rockets. It is however not specified in the papers which rockets he was speaking of, although there were rail lines running straight back to Nordhausen and Doha Mittelbau, where V-2 rockets were manufactured. But we know there was significant research into larger, further-ranging rocket designs that was being done throughout the Reich, and testing of rocket engines took place not far from here. These places I will show you later this year. Hitler, as we know, did approve the project, but he did note that he did not think it would be finished in time. In time for what is left out of that report. Now, of course, in London they were well aware something was stirring. It had been intercepted that the British expected the Germans were working on something that could deliver 2,000 tons of explosives to London every 24 hours, according to their Director of Intelligence. This led to the commencement of Operation Crossbow and Operation Heavy Crossbow, starting in December 1943, in order to target all these new strange bunkers and constructions which were springing up on the coast of France. This at that time included 69 smaller ski V-1 sites. Thereafter, dropping 1,700 tons of bombs, the head of the V-1 launch sites, Colonel Wachtel, reported that his regiment had suffered 0 casualties, but they had lost 30 French workers. And he was maintaining the look of destruction while secretly repairing the sites. Eventually, the V1 campaign was not hindered at all by the British bombing campaign. Hitler fully expected this, as he said at a staff meeting. We would do the same if we suspected the British were planning a massive long-range bombing campaign on Berlin. Thus he urged much more anti-aircraft units to be sent to France to guard these sites, but he did expect that damage could be kept minimal if construction was done of many smaller sites dispersed, or enough protection was placed around the larger ones. And he was only partially correct. One of the heavy bombing raids on La Cupole only cost 2 workers' lives, but it took 45,000 man-hours to clean up. However, the structure suffered very little damage. But eventually, due to the constant heavy attacks, the Cupole never came into its intended use, before being captured by Allied troops. It has found alternate uses, however, before then. So let's go take a look under the huge mountain, and not under the dome.
Thought it was going to be a quiet day in the office.
Exactly, it's very quiet.
You know, things always goes wrong when Americans show up.
No,
Like,
you're always a savior.
yeah. We show up to save your countries by
Exactly.
bombing everything we can find. Don't worry, we will come save you from the Germans by bombing all your towns ourselves, so the Germans don't have to. Sorry about that. All right. Oh, I knew there was something I was missing. The camera. But it's the unknown that's fun. And this is the unknown. So these are the tunnels they used partially as a hospital as well, or is that outside? Well, let's see what we find. And it is limestone, which is absolutely a nightmare to get off your boots and shoes and clothes afterwards. By the way, this reminds me a little bit of the cement tunnels in Ebensee. So these are the original built-up walls from the time. Oh, and they were planning on several. They're planning on several levels, possibly. This is usually for levels. They have cross beams, or had, if this was cement, but.
Unfortunately, Laura is not there to explain I think it would be much more interesting for you if you would have some explanation.
Oh, I'm going to absolutely ask. Oh. Oh. Don't worry. I will now say it on video. If I get hurt, it's my own fault. Now you have it on film. But I can see where this is coming down. How far does this go in? Yeah, it is. Was it blocked always, or this?
He has no idea. He thinks that it was not blocked before.
Things collapse in this world. When it's wet and muddy, things will collapse.
And as the lines dynamite.
They dynamited it.
The dynamite entrance for.
Oh, the.
So maybe it's one.
Usually the tunnels the Germans built were really solid. They come back.
Soviets and
Yeah. Well, the British. You were more worried about the British. Do you remember Churchill wanted to blow up the V3 gun site? And he did, even though de Gaulle said no. He did it before handing it over to the French. That's why the V3 gun is so unstable, because it was blown up. Not from the actual bombing. Wow. So this is one of the side galleries that they were planning. This is where the rail would go down, isn't it? Or was supposed to. Oh, wow. So they were cementing these cross tunnels already then. At least they were lining the walls. Tino.
Tino, oh yes. Did you see Chicago?
94, 94, 96, 43. If you're not dead by 1943. Is that authentic? Not dead by
1943, I don't think so. But because a lot of people were coming after the war.
Yeah.
They played a lot.
Yeah, I know. That's. Is there any original graffiti? Usually from the Americans. There usually is a little bit somewhere. That's one thing I like about, if you look at the Maginot Line forts, you were very much about color. You want to color on the walls and paint so the rooms for morale. And that was a big deal. And the Germans never had that. They only had the gray walls. So these are slowly collapsing. Is that what I'm seeing? Fascinating. But it's interesting they dug those holes into the sides. That's usually what you do when you want to build another floor, and you put cross beams and you build a floor there. But into the cement, not into this, to this. But that would have been cross beams. Maybe just to hold the ceiling. Some things ceilings like to come down. Especially when the British shows up and start dropping bombs. Very annoying. It's very annoying when they do that. So we're no longer under the dome, we're into the mountain now, right? This is what collapses look like, boys and girls. I don't even see any bats, but again, ceiling. Yeah, we're no longer under the dome, are we?
It's a Krishna-esque.
Oh. That's a heck of a turn. This is a 90-degree turn, isn't it?
So, I think
Yeah. By the way, I know that graffiti over there says Tino, but it wasn't me. Like, I'm sorry. I was not here. I didn't do it. I have nothing to do with it. Oh, now it's getting fun. This is the fun part. There's something very peaceful to being underground. This is fun. Well, hello there. Ooh. I don't know where to go. We're coming the same way back, right? How can I not take the opportunity? Wow. These galleries extend so much more than you see. This is fascinating. And even looks more stable. But so these indents must have been for, could have been for cross beams to hold the floor. So I find it very possible this was to hold the floor. And this could have been the wood that I'm currently standing on. That could have been the cross beams. This is about long enough to be across, isn't it? This beam could have been across there just to keep the floor up. Or mount something in the ceiling. Not for another floor, but to hold something up. So like that beam here is probably long enough to put a crossover. And then you could hang up lights and stuff in the ceiling, and you could make it, you put up the tarp and it would be waterproof. And this was done with, this was done with hand tools. The person's worked with hand tools, didn't they? They didn't explode this. I don't think. You don't want to explode clay. You almost don't have to. It's easy to work on. Okay, let me walk on. How's this? This is very, very fine. What is this? This is very, very, very thin. This is not a material I would usually. You may want to have a look at this. It's not workers' clothes, but it's very, very thin. I almost thought parachute for a minute, but I think there's a string. I don't know what this is. We'll put that there. What do you think? It's very light, almost like silk. If you feel it, it's very very smooth. Right? I don't know who would wear it. I mean, I know the Germans sometimes had silk shirts under the officers, under their shirts, but And now the boots are thoroughly wet, inside and out. No longer matters. I'm not cold, it's like diving. This is awesome. I love this. I want to find period graffiti here. There's another one of these rooms. This is a huge place for walking. Ah, wait a minute. Now I know some of these were used for hospitals. Like I know some of these were used for hospitals. This is newer, this is too new. But medical bottles back then were usually brown. Oh, wait a minute, this is actually cemented up all the way. Wow, this is... Look at this. This is cemented up. All the way here. And there's hangers on the wall. Wooden behind. This is... What were these hangers with before? Wood pillars in the ground here. Oh, this is amazing. I'll be right back. This ends here. But, I mean, interesting with the hangers. That, by the way. That is the collapse it came from. Well, above me here. And again you have the cross beams, but they hollowed out the tunnels above this. This is really something. This is amazing. The museum is great, but this is awesome. It's interesting how they set up this whole space. This is how high the tunnels would be. And then the indents in the wall disappear here, like behind. So maybe this is just a construction for somewhere to sink the cement into. And then all these hangers with wood, that would have been for machinery, or if this was a barracks, it would have been for bed, but these are too heavy for beds. These were all going to be production halls. So it must have... It is blocked down there, yeah.
Because Jean-Jacques was saying it might be the exit.
Really?
Maybe to go from...
Well, give me a minute. I shall investigate. If you think it may be open, I'm most certainly going to go have a look. It does look frightfully blocked, if you ask me. Well, if it wasn't blocked. Now it's blocked. See the cross beam up there? Just like I said, there would be wood from the holes suspending the ceiling as a ceiling right there. So that's what the holes are for. They were for a cross beam, but not everywhere. All these had. It is blocked. It may not always have been, but something certainly came down. And this is a small tunnel comparatively. This is different. Almost looks like a spacer. Solid rubber. No idea what that is. No idea. Oh, shovel.
Yeah.
Are you doing an exposition of what you find in the tunnels? I mean, you should.
We should, yeah.
We should.
As I said early, we were organizing visits of these tunnels.
Yeah.
So a lot of people ask that we do it again, but
I mean, yeah.
unfortunately for safety reasons, it's not.
See, this is interesting how this piece of wire is embedded in the cement free. It's not even an electrical wire that's hanging on something. I mean, the way I always look at it is sign a liability waiver. If you do something, volunteer to do something, sign that it's your fault if you get hurt. I mean, we can do that in the States, but it doesn't work in Europe, does it? Or I mean, they'll organize a tour once a year for people who know what they're doing, or idiots like me. I also know what I'm doing, but I'm still, you know, this wood is so, oh my God, this is completely rotted.
Yeah.
Don't step on the wood. Well, you can step on the wood all you want. It's not gonna. This is metal. This is metal. That's a metal beam. Oh, I love this place. Oh, what a good picture. Oh, I love this place, love this place. So this was a different way of doing it with the cables than they did in the heavy technical. Oh, now I can feel the clay hanging up to me. Look at this. This is a time marker. You know how people, they write when they're in jail, they write run 6 and then one across. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Somebody did carve these verticals at some point for some reason, and then a crossover. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe a 10th. Somebody did this. It's amazing that hasn't fallen down. See, there's almost one crossover that way as well. So 152nd, and we're seeing so everywhere there's been military too, they always put their unit in. I see all the tool marks. There's a 2 here. And this is the wall that hasn't, this wall hasn't collapsed. See all the tool marks everywhere. We'll see how they worked on this. You had Italian prisoners here too, didn't you? This is such a good picture. Put that one land. What am I kidding? I gotta come over here. All right. Now we do a little bit of walking again. And what do we see? Onions up there. Well, I don't see a floor. I have a fish in one of my shoes. Oh well. Wow. What have we here? Let's see a cable holder. I will say the water is very clean. Well, at least it's not even, that's the strange thing, the water is not really cold. Here's the crossbeam construction, you can say. In the holes and then built under it. And then some more and some more and some more that have just collapsed in there. There's construction wood in there. I am such a big fan of this place. Piece of wood. We're coming the same way home. We're coming the same way back, right?
As the Allied rolled over the German V weapon sites, they were followed by dedicated investigators led by Major Saunders, tasked with sorting through the rubble of especially the bombed-out heavy crossbow sites. Most of these had been bombed repeatedly, not because British intelligence actually knew what they were for, but out of the warrior antics that if the Germans can expend massive resources building something, well, then we can spend massive resources bombing them. As we saw from the small V1 bomb launch sites, they were incredibly hard to destroy, or rather hit accurately, and the bombing of these never stopped the firing of all V1s delivered according to Colonel Wachtel in charge of operations. And the mobile V2 launchers could be set up anywhere, as long as there was a solid, flat slab of concrete. These were the actual dangers to the Allies, one that according to Operation Heavy Crossbow was accepted as negligible to Operation Overlord, as it was stated that, opposite what we've been told since, the invasion was never jeopardized by the V-rocket attacks. However, the Allies did at times expend up to 40% of their bombing force destroying these sites just the same. And not just the large firing bunkers were targeted, also the factories, production facilities across the occupied territories, and the fuel plants. Thus, with exceptional speed, the German industry was moved underground, into over 1,000 new relocations, underground caves, tunnels, purpose-built underground halls, or massive above-ground bunkers, just as we see protecting the new submarines, or the Reimark, or the Blockhaus.
Yes, we will take the same.
Good. Sometimes it's nice to go to the end, then you know where the end is, and then you start filming the details coming back. Oh, this is awesome. Is this original? 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 Yep. Wow. Now we're on wood. And I see it, I see it. These are the vats that you sometimes see for construction. Ooh, wait a minute. Plastic? You guys did this. It's like, that's very advanced. There's so much stuff. All right. And this is what. I had to take my keys and car keys, phone, stuff out of my pockets because I'm now wearing my regular pants up to my knees. to here. Alright, there's an end of that tunnel there. This is a big space too. And here is a collapse of what could have been an out. Could have been an out there. And out there, some of this could have been destroyed from the bombing. Remember, this was very severely bombed. It's not impossible at all. It's not impossible at all for this to have been caused by the bombing. And then these breakwaters here, they're new. Cross tunnel there and cross tunnel here. Trying to stem the water is a little optimistic here. I don't get any wetter than I am now, so. Coming! Fascinating space this is. I am so glad I'm getting the chance to see this part of La Cupole. It gives me a completely new idea of how elaborate and extensive this is. Keep the whole wood together. You know, I have these really fancy holes layers, waterproof and all. I think I was gonna leave it. I'm an idiot. But still, construction wood is everywhere. And I'm coming back.
Jean-Jacques, he's telling me that it is the end of.
Yeah, I figured.
Like,
All right. I spent so much time in so many underground factories of the Germans from the war. I'm kind of trying to put it all together as an overall plan.
what is different than any other business that you made before?
Well, it wasn't. It's not very different. It's the tunnels are the same. The construction is the same in Ebensee and cement.
But what is unique for you that you didn't find in?
Well, the big cement dome on top is unique. the big hat is unique. The tunnels are very. I mean, the Germans built the tunnels almost the same way everywhere, so that's not strange. It's just the layout is different. The construction. So they were still building these when the war ended. So it would have been interesting to see with the machinery moved in here. They made the yeah, I mean, the interesting thing here is, were they building this for a rocket bigger than the V2? Oh yes. There was wood in all of these. And then there's some of them they would build over. And some of them they would leave as connecting tunnels. So there's connecting tunnels and then there's factory tunnels. It would be interesting, do we have the original plans of what they were going to do? Because I had a hard time finding the full plan of what they were planning, not as much as what was here. One thing is what is here, another thing is what were they planning to be. Construction wood in there as well. They were clearly still working here. Like here. Small little holes, just as a bracer, and either that was going to be the final result, but again, you've got a small little tunnel opening, and then you have a big cemented tunnel here, and you have the weirdest piece of wood. What the hell is this? You know, I've seen a few of these. I've seen a few of these, and it's not like somebody would have a tree like this. These must have been made or brought here for a reason, because I saw another one in the other room. I mean, exactly the one to do. I mean, you cut off branches of trees before you bring them in here. Yeah. I wonder what... That I've never seen before.
No, we don't know.
Very interesting. And there's some really... And here's another one. I mean, this is... Unless they have Christmas tree sale in here, and I don't think they did. Here's the metal to keep the woods together. These you'll see in mines everywhere, also today. These metal, for you to hold two pieces of wood together, you would hammer them in one and one. There's cement. It's interesting, you have these large rooms by small connecting tunnels, because you'll be working in these, would be the plan. Here they finished the ceiling, and then the ceiling came down because we're sort of standing on some of it. Small little access doors, and then they'll be doing all the heavy work in here. But if they were working in here, they couldn't bring out very big pieces through a small door like this. So what they also did in some of them, they had research, they had technical, they had drawing rooms. They would move all of these things underground. So you'd also have a whole design team, your drawing rooms, all this stuff would move into the tunnel. So not all of them was for heavy machinery and rockets, but also for design, kitchens, machinery. I mean, there's a lot of different aspects to these. And very interesting, they had office dividing walls, a particle board. There's nothing I enjoy more than these tunnels here underground, under the Cupole that's somewhere above us up here. I am so glad I got a chance to see the even picture in how these were laid out and how elaborate this really was, how big an undertaking. Except for the huge steel dome, there's a matching underground.
It is interesting that there are comparisons in the report to the blockhouse. It is far smaller than here, and the layout is completely different. It is claimed today both were initially for firing V-2 rockets at London. But why build two huge bunkers close together for the same purpose? And why are they then so very different? The wartime report of the blockhouse was that it was non-offensive, but only after heavy bombing by tall boys had the purpose been changed to hydrogen production, supposedly. But that revised back to it being for firing rockets. Here, with no papers found, the indications are this was a place to fire rockets. But when we then take a glance at the German statements and documents from the war involving nuclear research and weapons and end stuff, compared to this place, the picture could change. Sadly, the drawings we have of this place are of what is, not of what was supposed to have been. It will be very interesting to find the actual wartime blueprints.
Let's see what people have been drinking in here. St. Woman. Cheers. What's this? Yeah, well, that is new. There was a plan. They even had a plan for bracers. This would probably they would probably want this to connect to the big one next to us. Interesting, you don't have any bats here. I usually see bats on the ground. The wood is now so waterlogged it doesn't even float. And this is part of the cement that was once overhead. It's down there overhead. It's interesting, but this wood is in much better shape than the other wood, which is falling apart, so I guess that's not really. These are the original cables. So this would have been running over the entrance. I've been here for a long time, those cables. It's not fun when the floor is cold, when everything collapsed on the floor. We can't find anything. Nice little construction wood. Oh yeah, here the beams really come down. So wet and damp in here. There's another shovel. It's a big shovel too. It is not in good shape anymore. It does not have a good day. Whatever this is. Yep. It's not doing well. I don't think we can fix it. Here's another one of these metal spikes. You bang into the wood on each side. Oh, a piece of rock sitting in the clay. Oh, there's a lot of them here. Yeah. There's another one on it. It's like, what do you do with them? Oh, there's a lot of them here. Yeah. Yes. Wood. And there's another one sitting in this thing. We'll do that for the next guy who comes through so he doesn't stand on it. Your rail tunnel. Well, maybe. Wow.
It is interesting to note that during the 13 month of Crossbow operations, they absorbed nearly 14% of all Allied air sorties and 15% of bombs dropped, and in July and August a full 40% of RAF Bomber Command's assets were used.
Those I've seen before. Those type of cable hangers I've seen before. I never knew how much I enjoyed these places underground. This round is interesting because it's too much. This is too much of a turn for a train, for a big train. Small rail maybe? Small rail, yes, but a big train, this is too big of a turn.
Big train where it's supposed to come in?
Yeah, it's just come in and out, right? It wasn't going to turn here. But yeah, that's what I thought, because this would be too hard a turn for a big train. But there were mini rails here too, right? So finally I got a chance to take a look at the tunnels in here under the huge Cupole. And that is really, really interesting, because what you see of this huge dome is only half. The other half is underground. Now, there's other tunnels around here, and these tunnels as well. Obviously some of this would be used for production of the rockets, assembly of the rockets, storage of fuels. After things went wrong, some of them were used for field hospitals. The problem is, we really don't know exactly what was going to go on here. We don't even know if the doors, the tunnels, they were higher, they were way taller than the V2. We don't actually know if this was planned for a bigger rocket or for something else entirely. We're still looking, and when I find out, I'll tell you.
The Cupole is 117 miles from London, thus within range. It was constructed into a deep hill, chalk, covered by clay and sand, connected to the main rail lines with generally poor road connections, with extensive tunneling and extremely large reinforced dome cover. The dome was never seriously damaged by any of the air attacks, but a near miss of a tall boy caused damage beneath it. The first activity here was noticed on August 1943, with extensive rail lines being laid to the site. The main feature is the huge octagon chamber, 117 feet in diameter beneath the dome. At first, a huge circular trench had been dug, then filled with concrete and rebar, whereafter the top of the hill had been flattened and the dome had been constructed sitting on top. Several tunnels to the north leading away from the rail tunnel, with a large group of galleries to the south. There are several rooms for generators, and as was expected, some 5,600 kilowatts would be supplied from duplicate lines also. There are no water supplies to the site, and it appears that 4 floors were contemplated on either side of the chamber, and the center portion was to be clear from floor to ceiling of at least 33 meters. And the room could have contained 4 to even 10 floors in the final construction. The construction of the dome was interesting and in a similar concept to the Weingut plane factory shelters and the one in Siaco. Extremely simple and almost bomb-proof before the inside of the bunker was ever begun. In Le Cupole, a square ventilation shaft on top was driven 6 meters down. From drawings found, it should have connected to a horizontal shaft for ventilation into the dome itself. The internal construction and tunnels were not nearly complete, and several tunnels could not be investigated due to collapses. The main tunnel had an incomplete train station, and some documents were found indicating a heavy lift crane to aid unloading, from a standard gauge rail to a narrow gauge leading into the storage of the tunnels. Also a lot of incomplete galleries, possibly living quarters and machinery. To the west is a small group of excavations where administrative offices and a hospital was established. Huge door sections were found also at the Wotan site. Each were 55 feet high, based on what was found there. However, some sections may not yet have been delivered or taken away. Thus, the doors might have intended to be higher, and the site would have been able to accommodate doors as tall as 75 feet. It seems certain that the doors was intended for a large object to pass through vertically, at least 55 feet tall and 13 feet wide. Initially, the A4 rocket is transported in 4 sections that assemble quickly, and the rail lines here ran directly backwards to Nordhausen, where Kamla's huge rocket factory in the mountains was located, and the A4 is 45 feet tall. The conclusion stated, however, that the site may have been intended for Germans to launch a rocket of twice the size of A4, which would then have fit. If this site had been operational, it was estimated that 3 to 4 rockets could have been fired per hour. The site was extremely extensive, but not yet to any degree where a definite purpose could be established.
I very much enjoy museums like this, because this is the place where history took place, which is so much better than just an empty sterile room built for the purpose. By the time the war ended, they had stopped all their projects here because it was simply unfeasible to continue with the heavy amount of bombing that took place here. So the tunnels were used for other things. The interesting thing is, what was the end goal here? What was the final vision with these tunnels? Where exactly did they see this going? Was this just for the V2 or for something bigger or for something else? There's too many questions we still haven't got answers for.
There's a large building, or was, of unknown purpose, and it was expected to be connected to the octagon, but no connections have yet been found. Also, it is certain that a heavy bombing have covered or concealed a few more underground workings and entrances in the area. Investigators at the time was certainly not sure at all what the octagon was actually for. They found no clear evidence that this bunker was going to be used for A4 rockets. They saw it probable, but noted that larger rockets could also have been intended. Speer noted it only as for rockets, but which was not mentioned. The Americans noted that the exits lined up with New York City, but as the rockets were all to be launched vertically, that would be irrelevant. This is an extremely impressive structure to walk through. The remains of the original chalk mountain still inside has not yet been removed, but it gives us a great idea of just how vast the room would have been under the dome. But this leads to another important question. Why is it here at all? It had been argued and later proven that the smaller V-1 and V-2 mobile launch platforms were far harder for the Allies to hit and destroy, and almost impossible to find. So why were such vast amounts of resources being spent here for a project which was essentially unnecessary and a bomb magnet, insanely expensive, and which rocket output could easily be replaced by cheaper mobile launchers? Of course, if simply launching V-2 rockets was the intended use for this platform at all, unless there was something else. The British suspected long-range rockets, or long-range guns. They were both right on those. Even rocket mortars were suggested. The British operations to figure out what the Germans were up to was a quagmire of infighting, politics, and rivalries, which delayed the British understanding of the German programs far longer than was acceptable. They constantly argued internally as to even what the German capabilities were or what type of fuel they might use, solid versus liquid. Also, anything from air, fuel, warheads, chemical, and nuclear was mentioned with frequency in the British reports. But regardless, it was clear that these sites had to be destroyed, regardless of what they actually were, and then following the war, Major Saunders and his team could try to piece together the parts behind the lines, must be, of what they actually were. This, however, proved harder than just so. The Germans had by that time cleared out all the sites for all records and plans, and both the German workers and the forced laborers had worked compartmentalized, so they had no knowledge of what they were actually working on regards to the larger picture. One may wonder why this great expense, given the war situation and its needs. It seems such a bad idea that if we base it on speculations and assumptions of usage, but what if there was something more in the works for this place? There certainly was and would be enough room for other projects, other rocket sizes. Special warheads could be used, installed. Hopefully, one day a full set of documents will magically come to light in the archives.
So the problem is that surrounding La Cupole, there is an unknown amount of other tunnels that have not yet been discovered. There's also bunkers, pillboxes, various other things out here which, well, are hiding nicely overgrown or in deep craters. There's a lot out here that needs to be discovered, and honestly, a LiDAR would probably be the way to go here. We're gonna have a little look, see what we might be able to find. There's a bunker in the woods, they say. It's related to the V2 program, they say. It's right up here, they said. It's a little hard to see from the road, they said. It's around the little lake, they said. I don't see it. This could very well be what once was a lake, or a tall water crater turned into a lake.
Behind me is Vanna von Braun's first test stand. Down the road is Diebner's nuclear reactor. over there is the Maginot Line and all its amazing forts. I'm visiting them all and I'm bringing them to you. So I really appreciate you like, follow, and share what I'm doing, trying to document all these important historical locations. And if you feel like you want to watch more pictures or documents that I use for these, go to lostbattlefields.com. And if you feel like helping me out with my travels, because gasoline and travel and airfare is expensive, my PayPal is there, protectionserviceinc.com. You are more than welcome, but you don't have to. I appreciate all your support and all your help, and I love seeing these locations, and I love bringing them to you.